Hi, I'm Artis Wodehouse, and I'm sitting in front of my 1903 Mustel Art Harmonium. I'm making this video to assist a composer who is making an arrangement of some music for an undisclosed project, as yet, that may use this instrument. He needs to know what the stops are, how they work, and mechanically, so that it can inform what he might do with the instrument for his arrangement. So this is going to be very quick. I have to get this right out the door, but I believe this video might be of interest to people other than the composer, those who might be interested in what the Mustel Art Harmonium can do. Let's start with the fact that it has 61 notes, C to C, but the notes are controlled on the left from E down by these stops, and the notes are controlled on the right from these stops. The primary stop, that is the stop that corresponds to piano, what you see on piano, the sheet music, is the number one stop. Now this number one stop on the left is called cor anglaise, and on the right is called flute, and underneath it has a little sign that says 8 foot. In other words, it's corresponding to organ music, which is, this is an 8 foot pipe, but it's not a pipe in there, it's a reed. But the percussion are sets of reeds, sets of hammers that strike the reeds when I press a note, and it causes the reed to speak quicker than just with the airflow. So you get precision and you get clarity that you wouldn't get otherwise if you didn't have the percussions. Here. I'm having trouble getting these bass ones to speak as well. But, so percussion, as opposed to see, it's puffy, it's not crispy. Okay, so I'm almost invariably use that stop. It's very piano-like. Okay, number two stop. On the bass it's called bourdon, and on the right it's called clarinet. This is a stop that plays an octave lower than what is notated. So listen to that. Okay. Number three stop. These are the common stops on most harmoniums, European harmoniums. This is called clarion in the bass, and it's called fife in the treble. And it is a 4 foot stop. In other words, it plays an octave higher than written. You can see, you can just imagine these stops can be mixed together with one another. Number 4 is another 8 foot stop, played at pitch that you read on the sheet music, and it's called basson in the bass and hautbois in the treble. You notice it's always French terms because the French were really the key inventors of these instruments, and it plays at the same concert pitch as number 1, but it has a different tonal characteristic. As opposed to what 1 sounds like, which is the same pitch but a different set of reeds. Number 5 in the treble is a different sound. It's another 16 foot stop, and it's called musette, and it plays obviously an octave lower, and obviously it sounds like a Well, it sounds like itself, I guess, but it's very charming. All right, number 5 down here is completely different. It's the harp Aeolian, and this is a 2-foot stop, and it has 2 sets of reeds that are detuned from one another to give a shimmer effect. Number 6 in the treble. It is another 16-foot stop, and it's called the Vox Celeste. Wonderful stop. And it, again, has 2 sets of detuned reeds. It's wonderful for... Okay, so that's 6 here. 7, again in the treble. It's a baritone, and it's a 32-foot stop. And so it sounds 2 octaves lower than you would see. See, it's sounding like right here, but it isn't. Okay. All right, so 8 up here. You notice the treble has a lot of extra stops. Here we have, yet again, the harp Aeolian, number 8. So you're going well out of the tessitura range of the 61 notes as you would play on the piano. Okay, and down here, I guess I've got all the speaking stops, the ones that make tones. Now, up here, well, let's start here. You have a forte fixe. Now, that's very simple. Behind the instrument, you would see louvers opening, so this more sound would come out of the instrument. It's louder. It's great for ensemble playing. In a larger venue, you would use this normally. When you're playing with other instruments, well, of course it depends, but generally speaking, that's the way to approach it. All right, now there's this very interesting little stop here called the meta, and it takes the normal stops and gives them a sort of a duskier, softer quality. It's a unique sound, used sparingly, but not sparingly by Carl Gaylord, but it is another modification of sound that's expressive. Okay, now I think I didn't cover this expression stop. When you pull that, it enables you to use these 2 knee levers to control volume above and below the split point. So you can make the right louder than the left, or the left louder than the right. So here's the right louder than the left. Here's the left louder than the right. But the fact of the matter is, when you're playing expressively, artistically, you're constantly riding this device. You're constantly riding these knee levers because you're going to mix. You're going to take into consideration how many notes are being played at the same time. It's a very sophisticated technique and takes years to master. All right. And I'm not saying I have mastered it, trust me. Okay, so you have these guys. Now here's the Prolongment. This is a wonderful device that enables you to play notes in the bass, hold them, and use all your 10 fingers elsewhere. It's a lot like the pedal board of the pipe organ. In fact, that's where the idea must have come from. But you know, it's limited. It only impacts these bottom notes up to C to B, and but it's good to have. All right. Now this prolongement, what happens? You can't constantly be moving this thing around while you're playing other stuff. So what they devised was a lever that can be kicked back with your heel, your left heel, that will cancel the prolongement, so that note doesn't sound while you're doing other things. However, you have to remember that prolongement is still on, so if you are coming up to a note that's in here that you don't want prolonged, you had better push this thing back. Don't forget to do that. The final thing I think is useful to know about is the grand jeu, which causes all the reeds to sound grandly, and it's not only for loud effects, but it's also a tonal color itself. But here's what it sounds like. Now, I just want to say one other thing. That is to say, foot pumping, this instrument requires a degree of skill that goes well beyond the American reed organ. It's as somebody has likened it to swimming. You don't just pump one, pump, 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 pump. You go. They are going in synchrony, almost like a bicycling, but you constantly are riding the airflow. You have to govern the airflow at all times. And why are you governing the airflow? You are governing it to create the rendition you are creating. It's coming out of your own interpretation. It is not, and yes, the sheet music is very suggestive, especially in the case of Carnegie, but it's you crafting it at all times. It's you crafting and molding, and that's why this instrument, a person, even a very good pianist, sitting down to play it, will not be able to play it effectively. That's the case with this instrument and potentially other European harmoniums as well, because the American harmonium, the airflow is easier to control, and dynamics are largely controlled by shutters. This is all more or less in your feet and your foot technique. All right, next up will be some selections from Carnegie that I'm working on now for the harmonium workshop that might be of use to this composer for his arrangement.